Have you ever wondered who those people are who meet at 5051 Wilmington Pike every Sunday? Welcome to Cornerstone Church of Christ, where we meet every Sunday to bring glory to our God and to remember who we are. We're imperfect people on a mission together, following Jesus. At Cornerstone, our first and foremost purpose is to bring reverence and glory to God. And you'll see that when you spend time with us. We're from every walk of life, ordinary men and women who are just trying to raise our families. We want to serve and please our God. You'll find people of compassion who are eager to help and ready to love and serve. We just want to help you get home to heaven. We have asked some of our members of the church family to tell you why this place is so special.
We want a church that not only could we grow as Christians, but also, think about our daughters and our son.
I have grown and my mindset has expanded since I've been at Cornerstone.
It truly feels like we have family here.
We stay connected all week long in so many different ways.
I think it's more of what a church should be.
We feel at home.
I could go on and on about the Cornerstone Church of Christ and the difference that's being made here in the lives of so many people. But in reality, it's all about Jesus and the difference that He's making in every one of the people here at Cornerstone. We want you to check us out today on the web at cornerstone-coc.com, our live stream, or come by and be a part of one of our worship services. You'll be glad you did, and we want you to know there's always a warm welcome that awaits you here. If you're looking for a place to belong, if you're looking for a place to serve God and raise your family, if you're looking for a place where you can be changed into God's kind of person, then come check us out at the Cornerstone Church of Christ.
A world consumed with compromise and chaos. We are inescapably surrounded by sin from the moment we enter. Lost and hopeless, bound by chains of despair, shame and fear. We are all captive to the corruption of a fallen world. Broken, in need of restoration. Lost, in need of rescue. Left to ourselves, we are frail and desperate for God's forgiveness and compassion. God knew this would be the outcome of living in a sin-bent world, so He planned the greatest rescue mission long before we took our first breath. A mission of mercy, a display of His great love demonstrated at the cross. Jesus meets us in the mess of our humanity with His marvelous mercy. He finds us in the rubble of our ruins and loves us too much to leave us there. He sees the pains of life that grapple to consume us. Sin and shame created to destroy His perfect plan. But our God pulls us from the pit and sets our feet upon a rock. He casts our sins into an endless sea of forgiveness. He gives us more than we deserve, an abundant life filled with purpose and everyday new mercies. Not because of anything we do, but because of who He is, a loving, gracious, compassionate God whose mercy is from everlasting to everlasting.
Satan goes around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour, but he has been defeated, so I'm testifying by the blood of Jesus, he lost his power. I belong to Jesus, I belong to Him. Christ was lifted up with my sin upon Him, His life and blood came flowing down. So hear me, I'm declaring Jesus Christ is Lord. I'm taking back His holy ground. I belong to Jesus, I belong to Him. I belong to Jesus, free from sin. I belong to Jesus, I belong to Him. I belong to Jesus, free from sin. I belong to Jesus, I belong to Him. I'll send Him to the cross sealed that day. When Satan saw the blood, he knew that Christ had won it, and he knew that Sunday was on its way. I belong to Jesus, I belong to him. The ground began to shake and all of heaven's power came bursting from the tomb within, the tomb within. The stone was rolled away and hell was overpowered by the King who rose again. I belong to Jesus, I belong to him. I belong to Jesus, free from sin. I belong to Jesus, I belong to him. I belong to Jesus, free from sin. I belong to Jesus, I belong to him.
He was lifted up.
He was lifted up.
He paid a costly price.
He paid a costly price.
He bought me with the blood.
He bought me with the blood
of his own life.
Christ
the King now reigning.
Christ the King now reigning.
He wears the victor's crown.
He wears the victor's crown.
Satan was defeated.
Satan was defeated.
When the blood flowed down.
I belong to Jesus. I belong to him. I belong to Jesus, free from sin. I belong to Jesus. I belong to him. I belong to Jesus, free from sin. I belong to Jesus. I belong to him.
He was lifted up.
He was lifted up.
He paid a costly price.
He paid a costly price.
He bought me with the blood.
He bought me with the blood
of his own life.
Christ
the King now reigning.
Christ the King now reigning.
He wears the victor's crown.
He wears the victor's crown.
Satan was defeated.
Satan was defeated.
When the blood flowed down.
I belong to Jesus. I belong to him. I belong to Jesus, free from sin. I belong to Jesus. I belong to him. I belong to Jesus, free from sin. I belong to Jesus. I belong to him. People, we are free from sin. By Christ redeemed, in Christ restored, we keep the memory adored, and show the death of our dear Lord, until he come. His body broken in our stead is here in this memorial bread, and so our feeble love is fed until he come. His fearful drops of agony, his lifeblood shed for us we see.
Lord, forgive us for the times when we focus on the fear and darkness around us. Forgive us when we have been the absence of light, allowing darkness to dwell in our lives. With each day, your grace and word is there to encourage us out of the shadows. Lord, you are the light of the world, and in you, there is no darkness. Because of what Jesus did on the cross, we are free from the chains of sin. You have released us from the darkness that once held us captive. Sin and shame have no place to hide. Your light exposes what is hidden. Sin and darkness must flee. We will fear no evil, for you are with us. Your word is a lamp upon our feet and a light upon our path. Lord, please guide us forward and scatter the darkness around us, bringing light into the world.
Good morning and welcome to Your Pathway Home. It is Matthew Allen with Jason Schofield and Wilson Copeland.
Well, I'm not Wilson Copeland, but I'm Wilson Adams.
I do that every time, Wilson. I am so sorry.
Wilson Copeland is used to be in Minnesota.
Now I feel like the president. Matt. Oh, man.
Well, way to start it off.
I don't have dementia. I promise.
Well, Jerry, it's good to be with you.
Wow. Okay. Well, anyway, so we can all do that. We can all make mistakes, right? So, Wilson, it is so good to have you here. And Jason, good to see you.
Thank you.
Guys, I'm so glad to be back. I was in the state of Louisiana last week and holding a meeting down there. I really enjoyed it with the church in Spring Hill. But it is so good to be home and to sleep in my own bed and to be with the Cornerstone family. Guys, we're wrapping up a weekend here with Wilson and Julie Adams. They have been here talking about where is God when I hurt. And Friday night we met together and had a lesson. And then yesterday morning we were together throughout the morning talking about various ways of finding help and hope as people recover from life's traumatic and disappointing situations. And so, Wilson, I want to thank you personally for being here with us. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, I've enjoyed it. Julie's enjoyed it, and we just appreciate the opportunity, the invitation. Hopefully, we've said some things that have been helpful, not hurtful, but helpful.
You know, Matt, one of the things that I think this really calls us to all start talking about is that, you know, there's hurt in everybody's life. And when we come to a congregational setting, I wonder sometimes if this is just not a topic we talk about. It's something that, you know, we think, well, we need to focus on this and this and this and this, but we also have a responsibility to each other. And so the conversation has been opened this weekend about acknowledging that we all have hurt and that we have a responsibility in a way that we can help each other as people of God as they journey through their own personal experiences and pain. And I think it's a conversation that's very Bible-based, and I think it's a conversation that's very worthy of happening.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, this is a conversation that I think we do need to be having more in our congregations. You know, last year, after you guys were here for the marriage workshop that we did, we had some of our guests that made comments as they left. I wish our congregation would do something like this. This is where people are. And this is, you know, if you walk, and you made a statement, I believe it was yesterday, that you had grown up hearing a statement that there's a person hurting, at least one person in every pew that's hurting. And it's more along the line of every person has a story.
Yeah, and that's true. And eventually, and I always tell people, if you don't have a story, you just haven't lived long enough, because you will. And I think it's critical for us to not only to acknowledge our own stories, but listen to the stories of others who finally, and you know, some people are very hesitant to talk about their story or to share it. For one thing, you've got to be able to trust someone. If you don't trust, you're not going to share. And so a lot of places, folks file in on this particular day, the first day, and they come to worship, and they are just carrying such heavy loads, and they are very adept at walking in with a smile on their face. But the smile often masks what's going on inside. And they desperately just need to be heard and to be loved and to be welcomed and embraced. And, you know, when I read about Jesus and his interactions with so many people as told by the four writers, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, I'm so taken with his conversations with hurting people. Jesus knew how to listen. Jesus knew, in spite of the word multitude is used a lot, but Jesus knew how to talk with someone, even in the presence of so many people, and make them feel like they were the only ones in the room. And he listened, and he cared, and he reached across the path of pain, and he put his arms around those people, and sometimes he just sat and cried with them. And I think there's a message there for all of us. If we're going to be Jesus' servants, if we're going to live like him, that's what we have to do. And our hearts need to go out to others who are struggling in so many different ways, and just be there for them and love them and just do what we can to to embrace them just like he would if he were here physically.
You know, when you were talking, I was thinking about the story of Jesus and his interaction with the woman with the issue of blood. And this is just one of many stories that have been left for us in the Gospels. But if you think about, she had been struggling with that for many, many years. She had emptied out all of her resources. She is down to nothing. She has no hope. He is her only hope. And what is so amazing with that, of course, she believed that if she just touched the fringe of his garment, that she would be healed. And he felt the power go out of him to heal her, and then stops and, turns to her, and they have a one-on-one conversation, eye-to-eye conversation in that moment. And you think about, she's unclean as far as the Jewish religious standard. She has been in isolation. She would be looked down upon in the culture, and he doesn't care about any of that. Mm-hmm. He is there for that purpose at that moment. As far as Jesus is concerned, she is the only person on the planet, and that's that's God. That's who God is, and we have so much work to do, I think, with our own selves personally, and trying to free ourselves from the distractions, be able to connect one-on-one with people. That's a big challenge for us.
Yeah, and you have to remember also, Jesus lived in a very misogynistic culture to the extreme. And the Pharisees had so many rules for rabbis. And one of the rules for rabbis was you don't speak to a woman publicly in front of others. And, so they put up all these stop signs. Jesus blew through every one of them.
Yeah.
He didn't pay attention to them. And whether it was that woman that you're talking about or the woman at the well, whomever it was, he just blew past every stop sign, and he treated everyone, men and women, Zacchaeus, the crook on the cross, whomever it was, Jesus treated everyone like they had worth, because they did have worth, and all of us have worth. And so our Savior showed us how to treat people. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the problems in a lot of churches. We don't know how to treat people. Mm-hmm. And we miss that mark by a very wide margin sometimes. And so people come and then leave, and very, very little connection with anyone. And that to me is one of the saddest things that I see in some places, even in some places I go. Mm-hmm. I see that.
Gentlemen, when I was doing my medical training, they made us read a book somewhere along the line. I wish I could give the lady the credit to the book. It was Margaret somebody. And she talked about, when you treat patients, that you don't treat their diagnoses, you treat their who they are. And so in order to do that and find out who they are as a person, you must learn to hear their story. And the story reveals that person's heart. And if you think that that woman that had the issue of blood's problems went away that day because her blood problem was healed, we're wrong. If the healing of the leper, the 10 lepers, that they had no more problems with society, with family, with anybody accepting them or whatever after the day they were healed, were wrong. And I think, what you said in your lessons was how much we need to learn each other's story, not just their pathology. Okay. And what we have husbands who have a heart that needs to be healed, and because it's got pain or problems, they can't be the husbands they need to be. They can't be the spiritual leaders they need to be. We have fellow Christians whose hearts are hurting and overwhelmed with pain or problems from their past or whatever, that are unable to engage and be a support to their other brothers and sisters, to be able to have a relationship with God because of their pain. And I really think that we need to stop looking at each other's weaknesses, start understanding each other's stories and where we're coming from, because that's where we get to the heart, and we can heal the heart. And it's interesting that that's what Jesus was after, was their hearts. If you look at Acts chapter 2, it said they were pricked in their hearts. And even Stephen, when he stood up before them and said, "You stiff-necked and uncircumcised brethren," he's trying to tell them that you have a layer and a barrier between the truth and your heart that cannot be penetrated. And I feel like this is what you're talking about. It gets to the real crux of the matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. And you know, I think the challenge for us all, I think some congregations are learning about this and doing very well with, excuse me, how they are helping those that are struggle. I think there are others that have a long way to go. But wherever you're at, whatever congregation you're a part of, there's always room to excel more in this. And the challenge is getting out of ourselves. We have been called to serve. Our leadership equips us to do that, and then our job as members of the church is to put that into work. We are being equipped for the work of ministry. That's not just the work of ministers and shepherds and deacons. It is the work of every Christian. And so, for example, a lot of times we have people in the church that love to quote Hebrews 10:25, "Do not forsake the assembling of ourselves together." But sometimes we forget to incorporate the verses leading up to verse 25. And of course, verse 24, the one right before it, talks about stirring up one another to love in good works. Earlier in the book of Hebrews, chapter 3, verses 12 and 13, the writer talks about caring for one another and being there and encouraging one another daily, lest we be caught up in the deceitfulness of sin. So there is a daily involvement and interaction in our lives that we need. And that's going to be a give and take of in any kind of relationship. Listen, guys, relationships will not thrive with 2 hours a week. Okay? And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges in all of our congregations is cultivating a life together. The early church was together day by day. And I don't think it's calling for too much for us to rearrange some of our life to where we can be together, especially in our Christian friends group. You can't, look, a congregation like Cornerstone with 170 members, you're not going to be able to be together with every member every day of the week, but you have a small circle of fellow members that you can interact with. And if everybody's doing that, then the work's getting done. Mm-hmm. But we've got to be intentional about it and to cultivate those relationships.
Mm-hmm. So, Brother Wilson, let's challenge you to the question that how can we as a congregation then be a bigger help to the hurting?
Well, one of the things I think, and it all starts with leadership. I mean, it starts with leadership, and the leadership has to be opening and welcoming and know how to talk to people and be kind. And I think when a church sees that their leaders are like Jesus, I think it tends to send a message much more deeply than a sermon does. But there needs to be an atmosphere. You know, here's we spend time talking about we are opposed to mechanical, say for example, mechanical instruments of music. Okay, and we can have that discussion if you would like, but that's a whole other discussion. And I agree with that assessment that God wants singing from the heart and all of that. But my point is, we can turn around and oppose mechanical instruments of music and be very mechanical in our relationships with others. In other words, we can just go through the motions. And so we come to an assembly and we worship in a biblical fashion, but we don't interact with each other. Mm-hmm. We're not welcoming to each other. I saw something, I think it was Friday night. I saw something here at Cornerstone that I've seen in other places, but only in a few. There was a lady at the end of the assembly who obviously was hurting and walked down to the front and saying, "I need encouragement. I need prayers. I just need people to lift me up." But here's what I saw. I saw another lady in this congregation get up and walk down to the front and sit beside her, so she didn't have to sit there alone. Uh-huh. I saw a shepherd come down and sit beside her, so she didn't have to sit there alone. You know how many times I've been somewhere where someone comes before the group, they've got some kind of issue, whatever it is, and there they sit there all by themselves. And sure, after services are over, people oftentimes will gather around them. But in that moment of tremendous need, often we just leave them sitting there alone. And I tell people a lot, if that happens, if someone comes before the group to say, I need encouragement, I need prayers, or maybe a case where there's sin in my life and I just need help, don't let them sit there by themselves. 2 or 3 could get up and come down and just sit on either side of them and just be a comfort and a consolation to them. And that's what I'm talking about an atmosphere of acceptance and love. And I think sometimes we miss that. And it's easy for us to just go through the ritual, go through the motions, even though we're doing biblical things in biblical ways. If our heart is not attached to people, then we've missed Jesus by a country mile.
You know, and that action of what you mentioned, of somebody coming up and sitting with the sister on the front, that's a small thing that you can do as far as your own action, but it's a huge thing in the eyes of that one that's sitting there needing that encouragement and that help. And it reinforces, it's just as you said, it reinforces, I'm not alone. I've got people, my people are here. These are my people.
Yeah, and I have to commend our congregation. They're very good about that, because I remember, 10 or 15 years ago preaching that. The closest person to you when you're in your greatest moment of vulnerability and suffering is 30 foot away. And it's sad that we think this is the best way to this thing's being to be handled. And I really see the love in our congregation that way surrounding it, and it is a change in the what you see as a whole throughout our the church family. And I think it really, that's part of being or allowing ourselves to foster an environment of vulnerability. Saying that you're not on this alone, that we know where you are because we've been there. And even if we haven't been there, we are willing to come along and be with you as you go through what you're going through. And you're right, it makes a big impact, and I appreciate and love our people for that very action.
One of the things that we've started doing here is and I've kind of changed up the way I've do my invitations. Obviously we encourage people, if they have a need, to come forward and gather up there at the front pew, and there'll be people that will join them, and the congregation will see to their need. But there are a lot of other individuals that maybe are not as comfortable doing that. And so when I extend the invitation, one of the things I've begun to do, and at the encouragement of our shepherds as well, is I will tell people, look, if you have a need, there are a couple of shepherds that are standing back there at the back, and you go back there to them and you let them know, and they'll meet you back in the back room in their office, and you can sit down in there and talk to them in private. And I know there are a lot of Sundays out of the month that goes on, that people will meet them back there in the comfort of their office, and be able to speak to them and talk to them. And those are conversations that the rest of us don't hear about, and we don't need to hear about it. But I know it goes on, and that's a beautiful thing.
Matt, I love the fact that our elders have kind of, if you would, office hours. Here on Thursdays, and the members know that they can sign up for a time. They don't even have to put their name down, but they can sign up for a time, and our elders will be here to meet with them. And this is an environment to where we're saying that, we hear people say, heal thyself. No, it's not about that. It's just saying that we are going to help you get where you need to be in your relationship with God. And so if you are struggling and you need help, maybe prayers. Personally, I found myself in a decision-making situation. I wanted to make the right decision. I tapped into the wisdom of our elders. That's what we are here for each other, to help and guide each other in spiritual strength.
Yeah, that is, and I'm watching the comments. And by the way, thank you for all of you. I see Keith Stoneheart writing in this morning from Birmingham.
He's one of my favorite preachers, and I've never met him. I've never met him.
Well, y'all don't live that far from each other.
Is he the real deal?
He is the real deal.
You came 2 weeks
Can I
late.
I don't know how to get my hair like he does his, but
Well, I have a picture, but I can't share it on the air, of how much of an impact he had on somebody here at Cornerstone, who's probably watching. In fact, I know he's watching because he chimed in a moment ago. But Keith had such a profound impact on this brother that he had this amazing picture taken of his hair, his new hairstyle. And I'm shocked, Wilson, that he hasn't brought that to church and worn his hair like Keith did here at church, because I think that would just be so powerful if this brother would do that.
Well, Keith has a story, and I think that's what makes his that's what makes his message so it just resonates with people.
It does. Mm-hmm. It does. And Dan's writing in from Chillicothe this morning. I see Becky Pennick from Maine. Good morning to our brethren up in Maine this morning. And we've got a number of our Cornerstone family that are spread around North America, I'll put. So we're thankful for all of you, and we're watching your comments coming in this morning. I'm watching on YouTube, and I'm watching here on Facebook, and I certainly appreciate that. Greg is writing from up in Wisconsin this morning, and he writes in and says, remember that we are sharing in Job's trials in this life, and we need to see the incredible opportunity that trials can present to us. And he quotes Romans chapter 8 and verse 18, where Paul says, the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared to the glory that's been revealed to us. And so we all go through highs and lows and valleys, and it's during those valleys, I think, that God can use those to shape our mentality and help us to appreciate better the reward that's coming. And we look forward to that. We yearn for that, and those trials have a way of sharpening that focus and making it better for us. And the older we get, all three of us are not in spring chickens anymore. But the older I'm speaking for Jason and me.
Speak for yourself.
How rude!
When he's looking at us and talking about, I don't know.
Yeah. Let me adjust my bifocals.
But as we grow older, and we gain wisdom and experience, our thoughts of going home become more and more resolute. Mm-hmm. I believe, and that's the thing. I think we need to keep our focus looking to Jesus and looking forward to that reward that's coming.
Well, I want to challenge Brother Wilson here for a second. And, brother, we want to be create an environment where we are good listeners rather than people that always think we have the solution. We want to be a congregation of people that is a safe place where you can be vulnerable and we can help each other together on this life journey. But then sometimes people have been through some horrible things, and they're trying to move on. And even though that event or occurrence is completely over with, it's starting to define them because they aren't able to be everything they need to be and just move on. But it becomes a daily conversation. Every time you engage with them, they relate to that and that only. How can we be supportive, be listeners, be the brothers and sisters that we need to be, but yet help them move on? Or maybe that's not our job. I don't know. Help me out with that.
Well, I think it is partly our job. It's amazing how many people, when they suffer through some kind of trauma in their life, become stuck. David, even in the Psalms, writes about sinking down into the muddy mire. I think about walking. We've probably all walked out into a farm pond in some point in our life, and you want to talk about muddy mire when it's a cow pond. I mean, you come right out of your boots. I mean, you just get stuck. But sometimes people in life get stuck, and they don't know how to get out. And sometimes it takes others to help reach them and reach out to them and help them. But also they have to want to get out. Jesus asked the man, he was at the Bethesda pool, he said, "Do you want to get well?" And I always tell people that sounds like the ultimate duh question, but it was a real question. It was a very insightful question. Jesus said, "Do you want to get well?" And there's some people, I'm afraid, who find a measure of comfort in the zone, in the muddy mire zone that they're in, because sometimes it takes work. It takes a lot of work on my part or anybody else's part to actually begin to move forward. Thankfully, God has provided us with good people who are qualified to help talk us through, and I think sometimes medication, in some cases, are a great asset that God again gets the credit for allowing man to discover. But I have to be willing to do the work. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to wake up tomorrow and poof, all the hurt's going to just go away. There'll be days I'll take 2 steps forward and fall back 3 steps, and that's that's normal. That's just normal. But as time goes on, if we're willing to do the work, I believe God will help us move forward day by day in a better way. And so I don't know if that answers your question or even confuses it more, but two things. We have to be willing to get well, and we have to be willing to do the work. And then those of us on the other side have to be willing to listen, and we have to be willing to be patient. And sometimes we have to tell people what maybe they don't want to hear, but they need to hear about some things maybe that they can do to help their own situations.
Let me share a little bit. I'm not going to get into the details of my story, but I went through a very traumatic event 15 years ago, and I was very negative for a long time and very cynical. And I don't think I realized just how negative and cynical I had become. And with the hurt, I first of all, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. I couldn't hear it. I was so embroiled in that turmoil, inner turmoil, regret, guilt, sadness, betrayal. You name the feeling, I had it. And to try to, it took me probably 6 or 7 years, literally, to come through that, to completely get to the other side. But one of the things that I had some very close friends, one of them who's been listening, actually a couple of them that are on the program this morning, that walked side by side with me through that journey, and were able in their own way to point out some of the things I needed to hear. And that really, really helped me. They did not turn on me. They were there in my darkest moments. And both of you know who you are. And I will never forget that. But there are times where you just can't see and hear what you're saying and doing. And somebody has to love you enough to come by, and you have to have that level of trust and vulnerability. Okay? That's why friendships and relationships inside local churches are absolutely vital. You have to have them. So that in that tight circle that you can be relaxed around and be vulnerable with, and somebody can speak to you in a way that doesn't hurt you, that is the key, I believe, one of the keys to getting back in the pathway of recovery. But it takes time, and everybody handles it different. And some people, I think, have been through similar situations that I went through, and it didn't faze them, or it appears that it didn't. It probably did, but they handle it so well. And but they had their people, and we've got to have that. We got to have our people. And I love what all the. This is normal. All the comments start coming in as we're about to wrap up. So I'm going to go back. Julie's watching this morning and says, the trials we bear, are individual to us. They are not up for judgment. What is needed during those trials is a willingness to step into the messy and listen and learn. And for those two friends, that's what they did for me. And Rose, writing in right after Julie, said, we need to listen. A lot of times we hear people, but we don't hear them.
Yeah, and people aren't necessarily looking for us to fix their problem.
Yeah.
They would like someone who would just listen. Not so much with sympathy, but empathy and compassion. They don't need for me to go, well, here's your 3-point solution to this. They just need me to listen and wrap my arms around them and care about them. That's what they're looking for. That's what they need.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, Matt, as we wrap this up today, why don't you tell people, I'm not sure my microphone's working, why don't you tell people where we are and how they could be a part of this?
Well, I think your mic's working.
Okay.
I can hear you through it, but maybe the volume level's down, and that's not something we can readily adjust on the air. We'll have to work on that. But if you're here in Dayton, Ohio, come by and be with us at Cornerstone today. We would absolutely love to have you with us. We're going to meet in 1 hour from now at 9:30 this morning. We'll have some songs and some prayer, and then Wilson's going to lead us in a study at 9:45 today. And we just want you to know you are more than welcome to be our guest. And we'll do the same thing at 10:45. We'll gather together. The whole church will gather together, and we will have communion and prayer and praise and preaching. And you will be blessed by your opportunity to come out and be with us in person today here at Cornerstone. If you are out of Southwest Ohio and can't make it in person, then obviously we want to see you on our live stream, and we so appreciate that. Maybe you can't get out today, you live locally, but you can't get out today. Watch that live stream this morning. Be a part of it. We'd love to have it. You can watch right here on Facebook or YouTube or through the church app or on the Cornerstone website. We're even on YouTube and the Apple TV and Roku. So we are everywhere. And we want, and Fire TV too. I forgot they've recently added that to our package. So again, we are just about everywhere. So just appreciate all of you. Wilson, thank you. You're going to be back Tuesday night too.
Yeah, be here Tuesday night. And yeah, sure.
Yeah, so Wilson is our part-time minister.
Traveling
minister. Yeah, so it's been great to have him here, and be back Tuesday night in our summer series. So come out and be here for that. Jason, thank you, and we appreciate all of you. We will see you again next week for more of Your Pathway Home. Thanks for watching.
Shaddai.